chief futurist at futurist.com, researcher, keynote speaker, and author of Facing Our Futures. The book is coming out next month. Nicholas Babington joins us on Canada Now for his weekly visit. This week, we're going to look at the world's first AI lawyer defending a speeding case in the U.S.
So there's been a lot of discussion over the last few years about how artificial intelligence can upend all sorts of information-based industries, and been talking about like the legal system and lawyers and judges and judgments for a long time. And it's really interesting that finally we've kind of got this, some of these systems to deal with sort of, very sort of more simple, straightforward cases, and to be able to have full automation in the courts. I think that this is sort of a real watershed moment, Jeff. So it's interesting. So this is a program trained with artificial intelligence that's set to help a defendant contest his case in a US court, as you said.
Yep.
Instead of addressing the court, the program, which runs on a smartphone,
yes,
Jeff,
yes,
will supply appropriate responses through an earpiece to the defendant, who can use them in the courtroom. I mean, this is an absolute game changer for people that can't afford legal representation. This is social justice as much as it is really cool tech,
Yeah. Well, first off, though, is this even legal? Like not all courts allow lawyers to have earpieces, but if it isn't legal in a lot of places, maybe with this technology, and depending on the outcome of this case, perhaps that could change.
Yeah, and maybe that person brings a tablet, and the application runs on the tablet, and it provides a written response to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone needs legal representation, so people just need to open their minds and realize that this is something that's incredibly interesting, and something that really does open the door to some power to the people, Jeff.
Yeah, some winnable cases can finally come to fruition instead of not being contested because, as you mentioned, clients cannot afford the legal fees. The program costs $36 a year. I mean, it's nothing. Right. It's nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, like, you can even be in legal practice. You may not deal with this, but this just might be a service that you offer to people. You might have some sort of a law society license or something like that. I'd love this. This is what true disruption looks like.
Well, what about like, could this technology be applied to, say and this is an apt time to talk about it, that I'm an angry traveler. Right. I was stuck in Mexico for a few more days, and I couldn't make my way home. I've got some beef with an airline. Or I'm an angry customer with some large company that isn't giving me the time of day. Right. I wonder, could this technology be applied to not necessarily one that appears in court, but to an angry customer that's got a beef with a large company?
Knowing your rights, knowing the terms and conditions in a context, really important. One of the things I talk about when I speak is how bloated and difficult terms and conditions are. I mean, I was reading a report the other day, and it was saying that it takes about 9 hours to read out loud, Amazon Prime's terms and conditions, right? And some of it's difficult to read because it's in uppercase. Uppercase parts of terms and conditions are the important stuff, and in uppercase online makes it difficult to read. So that's why the legal folks do that at these companies. But we don't read terms and conditions. We just sign our lives away.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to change. That's a separate conversation. But when it comes down to knowing your rights, whether it's consumer rights, legal rights, medical rights, whatever, rights in school, and it's going to scare school administrations and teachers, then this is it. This is the watershed moment. Yeah. And sure, it might not be flick a switch and every kid and every person in the world's got this. 10 years time, it's going to be standard.
Okay, well, depending on this case, what happens if the robot lawyer wins the case? What happens if it loses?
Right. It's if they lose, so this company Do Not Pay that's behind this, they will pay if it loses, they will pay for the speeding ticket.
That's cool. That's cool.
If it wins, it's just like we all win because like they've proven the tech,
Mhm.
the person gets off, and it's all good.
Hmm. So whenever we talk about how AI would in some way replace a human
Yeah,
in a job, we often feel sorry for the human that is performing that task.
right,
Here we are in a situation where we're talking about lawyers. We were
right.
talking about expensive legal fees, and people not going to court because they can't afford it. I don't think there would be too, with all due respect to the lawyers that might be listening right now, I don't think
Right.
too many people would feel sorry for those that are being replaced in these cases.
Right.
And maybe they're being stepped in for, like there wouldn't be a lawyer there to begin with. So
Yeah,
AI is
exactly.
filling that gap here.
Yeah. I mean, in those cases, you typically don't hire a lawyer to help you contest a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
I remember I got the first time I drove in the States, I was a little heavy footed and driving down to Seattle from Vancouver, and I got stopped, and I got a speeding ticket. It was hefty. It was a hefty ticket,
Oh.
and the effort for me to go down to Everett, Washington from BC was so much that I ended up just paying the ticket.
Yes.
Even though it's a lot of money. But we're talking like in the States, it could be like $500, $600, $700 tickets, US dollars, right? This is, for people on the street, this is not nothing, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of, this is the money making arm of the police force, right? Let's be real about it.
Well, okay, so there's that domino effect.
Yeah.
With these winnable cases that don't make it to court, police or the city would be making a lot of money off of this because, like, well, who's going to fight it? They're just going to end up paying it and say the hell with it. Well, if that changes, what happens to everybody else? Like, will taxes go up because all of a sudden there's this lost income? Do you think that would be a situation?
You bring up a good point.
Yeah,
right?
that could happen, right?
For sure.
Because Nick Badminton doesn't have to pay that large fine because he's got this technology. Jeff Sammett's taxes just went up. Everybody else's taxes went up.
And on the flip side, maybe there's a slightly fairer way of policing and a better judicial system. It's I mean, we don't have enough money. It's like, this is the grifting of some of the modern parts of the police and judicial systems, right?
So
it's like,
Nick, we've talked in the recent past about AI entering the art scene, and writing articles to varying degrees of success.
Can I just interrupt there?
Please.
The biggest article on Futurist.com last year was written by GPT-3.
Mm-hmm. Oh, is that towards the end of the year?
Yeah, 6,000 like views, like views and shares and all sorts of stuff. This is it.
But it wasn't very good.
It was okay.
It's okay.
It was as good as anyone that writes for a Forbes council.
In terms of gathering information, it was all there.
Yeah.
Like it listed the talking points. It listed all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
I think people are very interested in just the very idea that AI wrote an article and they went and checked it out. It wasn't because, hey, this article is great, you should read it. There's a genuine interest in this.
Yeah, but for someone that doesn't follow things like, water resiliency and scarcity, energy production and renewable energy and all, people would have learned something, right? And it's okay to have like a 5-minute read that's a little throwaway that you learn maybe one thing that's kind of like something that sparks an idea.
Yeah.
We don't have to create these like deep tomes of whatever. I mean, think about it this way, right? We go to IKEA. I need some frames. I need a piece of art for my wall. You just buy a general piece of art for the wall of like a generic flower or like a London bus or whatever. Cool. Your home looks better, and it's just that stopgap before you can afford better art. This is life. I mean, people have been choosing to have a low-grade life for so long. Since the early 1900s, when PR and capitalism really gained pace, people, we listen to Spotify, compressed music. we're choosing low grade, and I wrote about this years ago. We are actively choosing low grade experiences. So and it's the same with some elements of quote unquote journalism, or pro amateur, like journalists or whatever. It's the same thing. It's just like fill the pipes, gain some attention, fill a need. Human and the machine really fills that gap. But like the true creativity, the true humanity, the true genius and intuition and inspiration comes from humanity. The true creativity comes from humanity. We're never ever going to find that isn't the case. But we just have to find people that really value that versus stack it high, buy it cheap.
Again, recalling an earlier conversation, like you talk about low grade experiences here in AI, kind of filling those gaps. Getting back to what I mentioned about the art scene, we talked about that. And we talked about a piece that AI had put together. It's actually quite good.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, that's unraveling right now, and it's like, who owns copyright? What are the reference points? In artificial intelligence circles, it's called white boxing. So black box is like put something in, get something out. We don't care what happens in between. White boxing is the idea, and I learned this years ago from one of my clients down in San Francisco. It's the idea that you understand how it works. You might not understand exactly how it gets to the final product, but at least the reference points. And, with things like GPT-3, ChatGPT, what could be millions of pieces of information, you at least understand the heritage. But there's a guy, I saw him at South by Southwest probably 10 years ago, 12 years ago, a guy called Austin Kleon. He wrote a great book called Everything is a Remix. Everything is a remix. We've spoken about Star Wars. Star Wars is a remix of Arthurian legend and World War II dogfights over the English Channel. That's it. It's like everything is a remix, Jeff. And artificial intelligence gives everyone the opportunity to create the remix. Going back to thinking about, in the legal profession is about understanding case law and understanding your rights as per the law, right? The rules, regulations, bylaws, whatever. And then supplying appropriate responses so that they can be considered by people that have got deep knowledge of that. Artificial intelligence has got deeper knowledge than everyone in that courtroom, so the responses are going to be solid. If the human person that delivers the information, I think needs a bit of training to be good, a good person at communicating what it says, then humans aren't going to win in that situation because it's an information problem.
This is a classic case of AI helping humanity, not replacing it.
But on the flip side of that, you've got ethics, you've got bias, you've got all of that are deeply human things that we need to address as well. And that's true for legal, it's true for workplace, it's true for self-driving cars or whatever.
Yeah. Chief Futurist at futurist.com, researcher, keynote speaker, author of Facing Our Futures. The book is coming out in about a month or so. Nicholas Badminton, always a pleasure, my friend. We'll talk again next week.
I look forward to it, Jeff.